Hello there. Thank you for watching my DTC speech. I hope you found it helpful in better understanding who I am and why I have decided to run for Congress. As I've been traveling and meeting with DTCs, I have been asked several questions, and so I want to use this opportunity to share with you all some of the frequently asked questions that I've been given and the answers that I've had to those questions. One of the most frequently asked questions is about the Appropriations Committee, which is one of the most powerful committees in the House of Representatives. Rosa DeLauro is the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee, and should the Democrats win the November elections, she would be in line to be the chairwoman of Appropriations. And so people have asked, why would we want to trade in that position for someone who is a political newcomer? And that is a fantastic question. And my answer to that is, what is the benefit of having that position of power if you are not going to effectively use that power for the betterment of our people? And for example, back in 2001, 2022, Rosa DeLauro was the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee because we had a House majority. We also had the majority in the Senate, and we had a Democratic president under Joe Biden. And so I asked myself, why did she not use that opportunity to help fund the IDEA program, even if it was to 15 or 16% versus the 40% that the federal government has promised? Why did she not use that position on the Appropriations Committee to help push for a raise in the sub-minimum wage, which affects a lot of low-income earners? And why did she not use that position to push for universal health care coverage or expanding Pell Grants? And, recently she introduced the No Gouge Act, which is a fantastic piece of legislation. But why wait until you're just the ranking member of the Appropriations Committee versus pushing for such legislation when you were the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee? Because if we had pushed for, the No Gouge Act when she was leader of the chairwoman of the Appropriations Committee, maybe we could have stopped some of that inflation that helped contribute to our losses in 2022 and the loss of the election in 2024. So again, if you're not going to effectively wield that power, then what good is having that power to begin with? The other reality of the situation that we have to face is that at some point, whether it be through an election or the passage of time, Connecticut will lose that position on the Appropriations Committee. If I'm elected to Congress, ideally, I would like to pursue being on the Appropriations Committee and have the tutelage of Rosa DeLauro to better help me understand the process, to make it more transparent, so that way I can start learning and being a replacement for Rosa DeLauro. Before I started this campaign, I had reached out to Rosa DeLauro's office and asked her if she would be interested in meeting with me and potentially working together to mentor someone who could understand those relationships and understand the appropriations process and prepare someone to take over for her eventual retirement or other. Unfortunately, she did not reach back out to me, and I will give her the benefit of the doubt as a political newcomer. Was I to be taken seriously or not? I tried on several occasions, but again, at some point we do have to face the reality that she will not be there forever, and what comes of that when that happens. Another question that I'm asked is about the delegates at convention. The Democratic Party will send 390 delegates to the May 11th convention. To get ballot access, I only need the support of 15% of the delegates, or around 60 of them. And again, voting to put me on the ballot is not voting for me. It is not endorsing my positions or my candidacy. It is simply giving the Democrats of the 3rd District a choice in who they want to have represent them in the November general election. And again, as Democrats, I believe it is upon us to uphold the principles of democracy and ensure that people are given a fair chance to have a voice and an opportunity to express themselves through the primary process. Which also brings me to the next question of people saying, what about the people who have been waiting and are next in line? And for me, I don't believe that we should be gatekeeping positions in Congress. If people want to run, they should be encouraged to run. If I'm elected to the Congress and there are other people who felt that they were in line to succeed Rosa DeLauro, then I would encourage them to primary me in 2 years or 4 years, because everyone should have the opportunity to have their voice heard, to have their ideas challenged, and to present new opportunities. And so the other thing is why are these people waiting? For me, I have felt a sense of urgency for the moment, and that brings me to another common question that people ask me: why now? And for me, the Democratic policies that we tried up until 2016 did not prevent Donald Trump from being elected. When Joe Biden was elected, we rehashed these same Democratic policies, and that did not prevent Trump being reelected and us getting Trump 2.0. So my concern is, if we reelect these same Democrats with the same policies that push these same ideas that did not prevent Donald Trump 1.0 or Donald Trump 2.0, what happens in 2028 or in 2032? At least Donald Trump is limited by his own fragile ego. And my concern is, if we do not have new Democrats with new ideas that are able to connect to the working class and able to bring back the people that have felt abandoned by our party, do we face an even larger existential threat in 2032? Do the people go for a competent fascist who is more capable of having an authoritarian takeover of our country? So again, I believe it is time that we see new leadership with new ideas so that we can re-energize the party and we can forever close the door on fascism in this country. Another question that I get asked is, do I think that Rosa DeLauro is too old to serve? And no, I do not think that age necessarily precludes a person's ability to serve in that position. However, the reality of the situation is that in America, the average lifespan of an American is between 76 to 79 years old. Having government-provided health care, I'm sure, helps to extend a person's life. But at the end of the day, statistically speaking, people who are 70, 80 years old now making decisions will not live long enough to see the repercussions of those decisions. And so I believe that people who will be inheriting the future should have a greater say in determining how that future shapes out to be. And so I believe it is time for younger people to have the opportunity to shape the future for which they are going to inherit. Another question that I get is, as one person, how can I change things? Especially since Rosa DeLauro has these connections and has this experience. And for me, if experience was the end all and be all, why do we find ourselves in the position we are in now? Why can people not afford groceries, not afford rent, not afford education, when we have the most experienced Congress in history? So experience isn't everything. I am a scientist. I have been a lab manager, a project manager, and so I have experience that can be adapted and transferred over to a position of leadership in Congress. The other thing that I want to mention is that I know politicians say this every year, that this year is different, but this year is really different. I'm a part of two organizations. One is Courage for Democracy, and another is the Progressive Candidate Program. And there's a lot of overlap between these two programs in membership, but there's around 130 progressive candidates around this country that are challenging establishment Democrats. And even if half of us get in, or even if 20 of us get in, a lot of these campaigns are like mine. People having a sense of urgency and somewhat ad hoc campaigns thrown together because we all just believe in that urgency of this moment. But if we make it into Congress, even if 20 of us make it into Congress, we can now approach the establishment and we can say, hey, look, 20 of us, 30 of us got in on these last minute ad hoc campaigns, but now we have a blueprint on how we get into Congress. And that is information that we can share with progressives in 2 years. And so if you do not work with us now to pass this legislation that the Democratic base wants, we are now elected members of Congress who can help support your primary challengers. And in that way, we can pressure people into joining the progressives in the Congress to pass populist legislation that will benefit the working class and the middle class. Which brings me to the next question that people ask is, Rosa DeLauro is already progressive. How do you intend on running to the left of her? And so I would argue that Rosa DeLauro is not as progressive as she claims to be. There's a website called Government Tracker, and they list all of the members of Congress from the most progressive to the least progressive. And on that list of 435 members, Rosa DeLauro ranks around the 120th most progressive member of Congress. Therefore, around 56% of the Democratic Party is more progressive than Rosa DeLauro. There are also many policy positions that she takes that I feel betray true progressive values. First of all, she does not support Medicare for all. Second of all, she continuously votes in favor of these bloated war budgets that are destabilizing our climate, polluting the environment, and destroying sovereign nations across the world. She has not been fighting for the IDEA program and for education. It is 2026, and other nations around this world, Germany, Japan, China, they all have scaled public transit, public infrastructure, high-speed rail, and this is transportation of the future. And progressives should be fighting for these technologies and for this future. Congresswoman Rosa DeLauro also accepts a lot of corporate donations. In 2024, she took in $1.7 million. Only 5% of that came from small dollar donations. 50% of them came from corporations, including AT&T, Verizon, Deloitte, L3Harris, Lockheed Martin, Boeing, I might have already said General Dynamic, a lot of military contractors. Nextera, which is, when we talk about the conglomeration of the media, taking money from Nextera, I think, is problematic. And also, progressives believe in taxing the billionaires. And so it concerns me that Rosa DeLauro has taken campaign contributions from SpaceX, which is led by Elon Musk, and Blue Origin, which is led by Jeff Bezos, two of the richest billionaires, two union-busting individuals. And so if we were going to stand up for unions, if we were going to stand against the billionaire class, and if we're going to stand up for the working class, I don't think progressives should be accepting money from these individuals. Another question that I'm asked is about impeachment, and is impeachment worth it? For me, I believe that it is the sworn duty of Congress to hold administration officials accountable for violating our Constitution, and the founders bestowed upon us the power of impeachment to hold presidents accountable. Now, we could always use Rule 9 to push for impeachment now, but I was very disappointed to hear that Hakeem Jeffries has said that should the Democrats take power in November, that impeachment would not be a priority of theirs. And from what I understand, Rosa DeLauro is very close to Hakeem Jeffries. She voted him for House Speaker. She will vote for him again as House Speaker, and they have a close relationship. It is a moral duty of Congress to impeach the president, even if we don't get a conviction in the Senate. And so for me, Donald Trump is not the problem. He is just a symptom of the problem. Part of the problem is that people have felt abandoned by the Democratic Party, and people feel that the Democratic Party is not fighting for them and for working class values. But the other issue is that we have people who will not hold Donald Trump accountable, people in his own party. And so one day this will end. But when it does, we need to hold everyone accountable who refuse to use their responsibility and their power to hold this president accountable. And so we need to have on record every single member of Congress who stood on side of the people and voted for impeachment, or who stood on the side of fascism and continued to protect Donald Trump. Donald Trump has committed innumerable impeachable offenses. He accepted the plan from Qatar, which violates the Emoluments Clause. He has not released all of the unredacted Epstein files in accordance with federal law, another impeachable offense. He has committed war crimes against Iran, against Cuba, against Venezuela, and against Palestine, all in violation of the Geneva Convention, which are Senate-ratified treaties, and the Establishment Clause, because of the Establishment Clause, Senate-ratified treaties are federal law, and a violation of those treaties are also impeachable offenses. If Congress is not going to uphold its sworn duty and oath to the Constitution, then those members of Congress should not be serving. So again, we need to impeach the president. We need to make sure that Republicans never have the opportunity to say like, oh, well, Democrats could have impeached him and we would have joined them, but they didn't do that. I want to have every single person on record on who stood by democracy or who stood against it. That way we can hold them accountable too, and that way we never face this situation ever again. So those are some of the questions that I have been asked as I've been visiting DTCs. If you have any more questions, please feel free to email me, or please feel free to call me at my personal cell phone number, 860-235-8705. Again, that number is 860-235-8705. I would love the opportunity to have you ask your questions and to answer them. That way that you are confident in understanding where I'm coming from, how I respond, and to get more insight into my thought-making process. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.